Good evening, friends, and thank you very much for coming and staying back despite today being a very busy day for you otherwise. I have here with me Mr. Bankar Roy, who needs no introduction on my right, and on my left is Mr. P.S. Raghavan, who is the head of our Development Partnership Administration and the Special Secretary who heads this wing of the Ministry of External Affairs. What you've just seen now is the human face of India's technical assistance abroad. What I will do is, all of you are aware of projects, dams, buildings, etc. But what you see here is a very different format of our technical assistance abroad. I will request Mr. Bankar Roy to quickly give you a few remarks on the concepts that go behind that, on the experiences that these ladies have had, and then the floor will be open for you to ask any questions that you may like. With that brief remarks, I'll request Mr. Bankar Roy to make his opening remarks. Thank you.
After 40 years of working in Tilonia, which is a very small village in Rajasthan, where we started the Barefoot College, we came to one major conclusion, which will surprise you all. We came to the conclusion that men are untrainable. Men are restless. Men are compulsively mobile. Men are ambitious. And they all want a certificate. And the moment you give a man a certificate in a village anywhere in India, they leave the village looking for a job in a city. This is a global phenomenon, not only in India, but everywhere in Africa, in Pacific. So we came up with this very interesting, innovative solution of training only grandmothers and mothers. They stay in the village, they never leave the village, they are respected in the village, they can communicate in the village, and they have leadership qualities in the village. And we want to make them into role models. If you ask for a grandmother in any part of the world, they all feel grandmothers are useless, they're only supposed to stay in the kitchen, they're only supposed to look after the grandchildren. No one has ever looked at them as a change agent. No one has looked at them as a role model. No one has looked at them as people who can change traditional societies and mindsets. So this program for us is very, very important because we are setting an example and showing and demonstrating the power of the mother and the grandmother. You know, they say, which is the best way of communicating today? Is it television? Is it telegraph? Is it telephone? No, it is tell a woman. I don't know if you've heard this, but it is the most powerful way of communicating today. So we found that these marvelous grandmothers all over the world, today, the Barefoot College has trained over 300 grandmothers in the whole continent of Africa. You will be surprised to know that these 300 grandmothers are the only solar engineers of the continent of Africa. Because if you look at the men, they either stay in the city or go abroad. No one stays in a village. So remember, these women that you see today are the only solar engineers of their country. Can you imagine? They are the only solar engineers of that country. But look at the courage they have. First time going out of the village, first time getting onto a plane, first time flying 19 hours to this country, arriving at the dead of night. They don't know where they are going. They can't speak the language for 6 months. They're illiterate. And in 6 months, they become solar engineers. Now, what more courage can you have than these grandmothers you see today? They are the ambassadors of their country. And I salute them because they have shown how it is possible to be change agents, fundamental change agents in their society. When they are in Tilonia for 6 months, they are not only solar engineers, but we teach them additional skills, basic skills, like for instance, making sanitary napkins, How do you make chalk? How do you make candles? Do you tell them about rainwater harvesting? So it is not only solar that you're looking at. You're looking at much more than solar. You're empowering women, which is a very major input. You're exposing them to skills which could make them entrepreneurs when they go back. Women, rural entrepreneurs when they go back. It's an extraordinary experience for every one of them. When I go to these countries and I speak to some of their governments, and they ask me, how is it that you are taking this grandmother from the middle of Cameroon or the middle of the Pacific all the way to India? I say, you know, we have an extraordinary program, and the government does not believe it. I say, I can choose a grandmother anywhere in the world, and the government of India pays the airfare and 6 months training costs for them to come to India. Now, what more progressive program can we have than that? It is extraordinary. The collaboration that has taken place as a result of this program. So we have, as a result of only this program, we have managed to have partnerships with UNESCO, partnerships with UN Women, partnerships with UNDP. So it's a partnership model that is actually working today. Remember, this is not a business model. It is a partnership model where we are getting Government of India as a partner, UN Women as a partner, community as a partner, government of that country as a partner. So this is something which is an extraordinary collaboration, cooperation for us. And I think we made such an impact in 4 years. This has been an impact which is extraordinary for us, and I think we'd like you to share this joy and happiness that we have having these extraordinary women from so many countries. We have 40 women every 6 months coming to the Barefoot College as a result of this iTech program, and they come from different countries. So right now, we have over 50 countries that we have covered in 5 years. Over 300 women have been trained over 5 years. 20,000 houses have been solar electrified by these grandmothers in 160 villages all over the world. This is a success story for India. This is a success story of partnership, and we'd like to share this experience with you. Thank you.
The floor is now open for any questions that you may like to ask. Manish? Just one.
So this is truly an inspirational and uplifting, what we saw just now and what you spoke about. My question is that you bring women from different cultural backgrounds, from Africa, the Pacific nations. How do you manage these cultural differences? What kind of, could you give us an insight into what goes on when women, virtually from first time, as you say, flying abroad and coming to India? What about this cultural attunement that happens, and how do you deal with it?
I think it's the environment that is very important. We are all used to a 100 miles per hour lifestyle. All of a sudden you come to the Barefoot College, it is 0 miles per hour. Nothing works, nothing moves, everything is very slow. Now they have come from that sort of cultural background in a very remote village, whether it's in the Pacific, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in South, everything is very slow. So the tempo at which we are trying to let them learn is at the tempo that they are used to. We are not chasing targets. We are not pressurizing them to perform or to achieve. We are just carrying the whole group together. Can you imagine in that whole table with 40 men, 40 women, all are illiterate, so they all feel comfortable. All come from a very poor background. No one is rich. Everyone is very poor. Everyone comes from the starvation level. So there is a solidarity here which seems to emerge from the room, which is magical. I cannot explain this. This is something which is, you have to see to believe. The first month is hell because they cannot adjust. It takes time. My Mobile bills are the highest because everyone wants to ring up home. What is the problem? I can't stay here. Why am I doing here? These are sort of processes which everyone has to face. And by the time 6 months is over, some of them don't want to leave, they want to stay. I said, no, you all have to go back. There is there's someone waiting for you back home. So there is a cultural merger of sorts, Indian and other cultures, which is non-violent, which is graceful, which is at its own pace. And I think they have managed to adjust this. And I think the trainers are very important. It's the illiterate trainer who can train an illiterate trainee. Someone who does a PhD or someone who does a master's has no way of communicating with these people because they're impatient, they want results, These people take their time, they have patience, they're compassionate, they're tolerant. This is very important when you train people like this. So I think they have managed to develop this combination very well in Thilonia.
Just a minute.
What's the language you use for training this women?
Hands. Hands, sight, sound. How's that for a universal language? They say that the illiterate of the 21st century is not someone who cannot read and write. The illiterate of the 21st century is someone who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. How's that? So when someone says, oh, is language a problem? No. Is communication a problem? No. Because you're speaking to them with your hands, you're speaking to them with sight and sound, you're speaking to them face to face, where the written word is not used, the spoken word is not used. And yet, these women know more about solar engineering than any graduate after 5 years of university. Can you imagine? I give you 20 different parts of a solar lantern on one table, and I put 20 different parts of a solar lantern on another table. A grandmother is sitting on this table, and the head of the engineering department is sitting on this table, and I say, put the lantern together. This grandmother will do it in half an hour, and this head of department who's got a PhD won't be able to do it. Why? Because he doesn't work with his hands. It's all theory, no practice. And these women are only practice, practice, practice. What is more valuable for me? Someone who can put a solar lantern together who can't read and write, or someone who's done a double PhD abroad and he can't put a solar lantern together?
Can you name the 10 countries from where they are from?
Vanuatu, stand up. Vanuatu, 1. Samoa, 2. Second country, 4 people. Zanzibar, 3. Third country, 2 people. Solomon Islands, 4. Kiribati, 5. Where else? Haiti, 6. Nauru, 7. El Salvador, 8. Guatemala, 9. Sudan, 10. There we are. All least developed countries under the UN least developed country list. We go deliberately to these people because if you can train a grandmother from a least developed country in the worst, most inaccessible village in the world, then the model works. Then the barefoot model is working. If I can make it work there, and someone tells me how many barefoot colleges do you have, I say every grandmother for me is a walking, talking barefoot college. I don't need brick and mortar for that. I just need to change mindset. And there you are.
You want to give some
The government of India pays them to come to the Barefoot College. All their expenses are met under the iTech program, whether it is medical, whether it is food, whether it is communication back home, whether it is boarding, lodging, everything is paid for by the iTech program. Nothing they have to bring from abroad. But sometimes they are naughty because they want to take back home, so they have 40 kilos they have to take back. So we have to make sure that they don't have to buy too many presents. They have to, but they get very excited, so they all want to do shopping. Now they want to take iPads and they want mobile phones. And I got a long list from them, so we'll have to manage.
How do you resolve the food problem? Because they come from a different cultural background. How
They are vegetarians for 6 months. And sometimes they get fish once a week, and sometimes they get meat once a week, and sometimes they can cook their own meals. We have arrangements for that. But their biggest sadness for them is that they can't have fish as much as they want, because they're in the middle of a desert. But I think they have managed very well.
What is the criteria for selecting the participants? And my other question is, how much has the government spent so far on this particular training program?
Remote village, 10 kilometers from the nearest grid, so that the government may not have money to reach that village through the grid. Has to be a mother or a grandmother, has to be illiterate or semi-literate, has to be born in that village or married in that village and not going to leave. Very simple criteria. And of course, when you're a grandmother or mother, you command respect in that village. We just have to change the roles of these women. And it's a big joke when you go into a village for the first time and say, I want to take a grandmother. They say, oh, ha, ha, hoo. Then they get very serious and they find actually we're going to take them to India. I don't know how the women will take this, but whenever they go out for the first time, it's like a funeral. I don't know where they're going, what's going to happen to them, are they going to be still alive, will they get sold to the Arabs, all these sort of fears that they have. But when they come back, it's like a resurrection. They come back like heroes. They are received as stars because they've gone to India and come back, which is the romantic part of it. And they've come back alive and well and confident and with a skill which they want to share. So in 6 months, you see somebody who's nobody becoming a civilized, walking, talking human being, bubbly, confident, cocky, arrogant, want to show. Amazing how you see the transformation in 6 months. How much did it cost? Mr. Tuhin. I won't like to say too much, but Mr. Tuhin has the floor.
No, we will not get into amounts because I think this is priceless. What they learn is something priceless.
But off the record, I think the government more or less is spending on these two programs about $100,000 a year, give and take. These 240 women coming, the training programs, the training costs, and that, as he says, is priceless. That's nothing compared to what other international institutes are paying and what you're getting as a result. These women are solar engineers in their own right. The women has the floor, sir. Today is Women's Day.
I'm just wondering if you have an age range, about approximately how old they vary?
In Africa, you become a grandmother at 35. Is that correct? Tanzania? Sometimes. So you become a grandmother at 35 in many least developed countries in Africa. and we can take them up to 50. It's between 35 and 50. That is the... Once I went to Rwanda, and the life expectancy there is 44 in Rwanda. So this grandmother got up and said, "I'm 46, I'm officially dead, why are you taking me?" So I said, no, don't believe the government statistics most of the time. She went and came back and solar electrified the first village in Rwanda. So, yes, sir.
How many Indian women are under
Under ITEC, we don't take any women from India, but under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy today, under the National Solar Mission, we are actually right now in Thilonia, in the Barefoot College, training 40 grandmothers from Jharkhand. You must come and see them. They are really, truly extraordinary, these women from Jharkhand. They have become solar engineers, and now someone from government of Jharkhand is coming to see whether to believe it or not. They're coming tomorrow. Because, yes, sir, madam.
I was just wondering, after they go back, these women, is there any after training or anything, afterwards when they go back to their villages? Any feedback?
The best part of being illiterate is that you never forget. You never forget. So equipment sometimes might take 2 or 3 months to come. They'll never forget. They've learned, and now it is imprinted in their brain, because their brain is not cluttered by anything else. It's just solar, 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 solar for 6 months. So you don't remember, you don't forget. We have gone 6, 8 months after this equipment has arrived, and they've solar electrified the village. They haven't forgotten. They don't need any retraining. We've always asked sometimes when we go back to see what work they've done, do you need any retraining? No, we're all right. The first technically and financially solar electrified villages in the world by an illiterate rural grandmother. What bigger story is there than that?
Yes, Parul.
Do these women get any kind of financial assistance from their governments once they return to buy the equipment, for instance?
We find it difficult to make that government believe that these grandmothers will ever come back as engineers. So they think they're taking a risk. They think this is a big joke. And when they come back, then the spin-offs and then the pressure starts. Today, as of now, I've got an official request from the government of Zanzibar to start a training center. The government of India has actually sanctioned 5 barefoot training centers in Senegal, in Liberia, in Tanzania, in Burkina Faso. And we did it because the first model was in Sierra Leone, when the president of Sierra Leone built the first barefoot training center. And now the women who we have trained in Sierra Leone are now training 150 grandmothers in that country. So I think the success of the barefoot approach is that these mothers and grandmothers are not only engineers but also trainers. So they train people in their own country. 2005, we trained 3 women from Afghanistan, when Rakesh was the ambassador. Those 3 women have trained 27 more women, and now 100 villages have been solar electrified. What did the Barefoot College do? Only train 3 women. And they then become trainers, and that's how you...
Who finances them after they go home for this electrifying the village? Or do ITEC programs take some time?
There is a proposal now that all the women that we have trained under ITEC, we will follow up with some more programs. That is still being considered by the government. So I don't think the government of India wants to leave them alone and strand. They don't want to let them go stranded. They want to be able to help. They want to be able to give some money to be able to see that more villages are solar electrified by the women. So there is a serious proposal now on the table that the government...
Now there is nothing.
Something will happen very soon. I think they're very keen.
I think we've had an excellent interaction, and I would like to thank Mr. Bankar Roy for spending the time and explaining to you the concept and the factual situation. To me, it's been an illuminating experience, and I'm certain all of you will go back with very, very pleasant memories of this afternoon's interaction. Thank you very much.